Hello, everybody.
It's you, Scott.
It's my turn. I'm Scott. I'm in Toronto.
That's great. I'm Andy, and I'm still in Poland.
Good to see you, Andy, and thanks for the nudge there. This is the T and Timbits podcast, Global Perspectives on Business Development to help you prosper. We are wrapping up the month of September here with our theme of the business new year. If you circle back a few episodes, I explained that that's the theme because I suggested that the season called for it, turning a corner out of summer into the fall and looking through to sort of adding some energy into our sprint to the finish of the calendar year here. It's not the start of a quarter, it's just a seasonal milestone, and it is one that I use to reflect on injecting some new energy, strategy, structure into how we're going to get through the next few months. And it is trade show season, at least around the corner. I have a few that I am going to in the next couple of months. So we'll get into talking on this episode about trade shows and events, how to prep, how to run them, what to do after the fact. Before we do that, please talk more than me, Andy.
I'll do my best. So I'm bringing this story to the show because it's something that's been going on recently, and I started working with a supplier, and I'm going to be relatively vague because I know that they do occasionally listen to our show. So, but nonetheless, this supplier was, I would say, one of the leading suppliers in their field, in the reputation that they had, in the types of customers that they have worked with in the past, and the type of service that they delivered for a good many months to me and to my clients. Then all of a sudden, there was a big change in the quality of the service that we were receiving, and in the actual communication, and in everything else. And then the terms of the agreement were changed, the terms of service were changed, and then suddenly I started receiving invoices for things that I hadn't ordered, and my clients were starting to receive random invoices as well, and suddenly this company that was very professional and very well respected in the particular area that they work in went from being a professional company to being a very unprofessional company, and everybody has sort of noticed that and are very confused because nothing seems to have changed with this company apart from their communication and their quality of service. And ultimately it flagged up to me just how important those things are, because if you have a good reputation and you are working in a specialist field, as this supplier is, you only have your reputation and your last customers to go on in terms of making sure that you get future business. And this supplier has done themselves an awful lot of reputational damage that has resulted in many of course, my clients saying that they wish to find an alternative supplier, and me personally thinking I need to find an alternative supplier. And it's a real shame because, like I say, I mean, they delivered quality work, good times, good communication, good prices, everything, right? So they ticked all of the boxes, and now they've gone so far away from that, and I don't know what's happened to create that. And I've tried to discuss it with them, but they are insistent that they are continuing to do things in the same way as previously. And so this is just really a bit of a highlight to me personally as well, is how important it is that when you are in a business where reputation matters, and you own a service business, that that you make sure that you are consistent with your quality, your communication, and your delivery. And if you are failing for any reason, if something's happened personally or professionally, that you communicate that with your network, you communicate with that with your business, and you don't suddenly start changing the way that you do business to become a very unprofessional supplier. So anyone listening, have a reflection on your own business ethics and your own business processes. And if you do come under pressure, don't panic, and don't change the way that you treat your customers, because in the long-term impact is definitely going to be much more negative than whatever it is that you're going through that's causing you to react in a emotional way as opposed to a professional way.
Right. Or from a sense of false hope, like maybe if we just get through this, right, it'll come back. Trust takes years to gain and seconds to lose.
Absolutely.
And I'm just going to reiterate the point you made about being transparent. Listen, if adversity arises, you're going to lose the business. You can't fake it through that kind of a moment. And it takes a certain amount of business maturity and probably having gone through this, if they are indeed sort of generally virtuous and they might have to take a hit here and learn a lesson so that it's something they can learn from in the future. Let's hope so, at least. But coming forward and communicating this transparently, articulating the setback that you're experiencing. Maybe it's staffing shortages, maybe it's a personal issue, maybe they're having downstream supply chain issues or whatnot.
Correct. Yeah.
Just tell it what it is. Listen, our interest is your interest. You need to make sure you're getting your things done. I just want to let you know we're having a bottleneck. We're having a challenge, a delivery challenge.
Exactly. And people would respond much better to that than to the situation that arises where you start behaving differently and essentially damaging your business, your future potential, and the opportunities that could present to you in the future, because your reputation is shot, and in a very niche industry which this company works, that's a big problem, and that's going to just impact even more, and they're going to and it's just going to make things worse and worse and worse, and it's a real shame, because like I say, they were just a few months ago definitely one of the leading suppliers in the industry, and have now gone way beyond to allow their competitors to pick up all the pieces.
Yeah. I think it's a great story. Thanks for sharing, because it's something for, I think, everybody to reflect on both sides of that potential equation. Let's get into our topic today. We're talking about trade shows. It is trade show season. I think, well, there's probably 2 trade show seasons. They happen all year long, but there's sort of a glut of them in the fall, and there's another sort of concentration in the spring. None of them seem to happen in the summer, and who wants to go outside in the winter? So here we are on the doorstep of some of that activity. So for those of us who are exhibiting at trade shows, those of us who are trying to take advantage of these exhibitions and events to help with our own business development, how do we do it right, Andy?
Again, this could be an entire series on its own, and maybe
we've talked about this before, but I think
we have, and again, we've condensed it into a 20-minute episode, and that's always challenging. But essentially, I think it is important that you do highlight those times before, during, and after, and that you have a clear plan. And this is where it really starts, sort of about, I suppose, 12 weeks before the actual event. You've got to define your objective, and you've got to be able to define your objective in one sentence. That's kind of the key. So it's, I don't know, say 2.5 million of qualified pipeline from, I don't know, 12 target accounts or something, and I made that up just now, but it's an example of just a single sentence of, it's got to be quantifiable, and you've got to be it's got to be measurable. You've got to be able to measure that, and then once you've defined that objective, you've got to have put some targets in place. Okay, how many meetings do we need to pre-book? How many qualified opportunities do we need to have? What is the actual pipeline number that we need? And how many decision maker conversations do we need to have? How many partner meetings do we need to have? And then sort of breaking that down into sort of the steps that you need in order to do that. So one of the things that I found to be very effective is the executive outreach. So even though very often the executives themselves are often not at these events, having senior management and executives from a company that are exhibiting at an event, actually reaching out to other senior leaders within the target customer audience and arranging, a private briefing or, a business dinner, and starting with that, because that just generates that kind of momentum, that interest, but then making sure that doesn't just sit there, that is then fed back into the sales team, and that the sales team, the business development team, they are able to start creating content. They are able to start having conversations that relate to those high level conversations that have taken place, and they are then setting up specific meetings with their counterparts, and then sort of 2 to 3 weeks before, they've got some confirmations of those activities. They've got some calendar times booked in. They've got some meeting packs that they've sent out. And then that week before, just the week before the event, they're sending out a reminder, we're going to see you there. This is our stand location. Here's my mobile number. This is the agenda of any discussions that we want to have. And
Right.
I think for the team themselves, it's very important as well. So if you are at a trade show, try and focus your narrative. Look at politicians. They're very good at doing this, and there's no reason that a sales team can't do this. You sort of identify 3 key things that you solve in your industry, the sort of 3 key problems that you solve, and then 3 outcomes that you deliver. And ideally linking that with 1 case study per vertical, because then you can just repeat that over and over and over again to everybody that you meet over that whole time.
Right.
And if you can then link that with a 1-pager that you take with you with some clear next steps, and you've prepared sort of a short storyboard or something like that, that will then give you the tools and confidence over the period of the conference. It could be a 1-day conference, a 5-day conference, it doesn't matter, but you're repeating that narrative over and over and over again. It gives you confidence in it, and because your confidence as a salesperson who is there at the exhibition believes in this, understands it, and can speak passionately about it, then anyone who you're meeting with is going to feel that passion, and they're going to feel part of it. They're going to understand it, and they're going to relate to it, and they're going to go, yes, that speaks to the things that are relevant to me. Or they're going to go, that's not stuff we're struggling with, which is great. Then they can move on, and you don't waste your time.
Right.
But having that clear narrative in place up front is so valuable at trade shows, because otherwise you can be drawn into so many different conversations. You can be drawn into, many hours of discussions with people about things that don't matter. And that's irrelevant. And you've got to keep that big goal in mind. What is your key objective? What are you going to do? And how are you going to get there? And then thinking about how your stand is laid out and things like that. Of course, that you've got kind of an open layout for conversations. You've got sort of a seated area off to the side. You've kind of got I don't know, like a QR code on the stand somewhere that people can book meetings with you to come along. You've got a lead capture system, so you're either scanning the barcodes on the badges that people are wearing, or something like that, But I also think that there's a good thing to do as well. If you've pre-booked some meetings, to do like a kind of a private round table where you invite people to them, like an after event thing in the evenings, where you're hosting a drinks party or a dinner where people are coming along, and you give them kind of a feeling that they're getting something special, that they are part of an exclusive club of being invited to this special event, and that adds a lot of weight. And this is all sort of, a combination. I mean, I've kind of blurred into before and during the event now, but the key is obviously after the event that you then follow up with a personalized summary and a calendar link to have a detailed conversation with those people that you've met, that you've had those discussions with, and that you set this proposed agenda within 24 hours of having those conversations. So and that may still be at the trade show, but it doesn't matter. You do it within 24 hours.
Yeah. So I'm gonna poke at that one a little bit. So many times I've kind of followed that recipe, and it's funny. You just like, I'm getting ready for a couple of shows, and I just finished making the one pager, and everything that you described. So, the after event follow up.
Yeah,
I don't think it ever works.
Really?
People are excited in the moment. They're like, yeah, let's talk, and then they get on the plane and they kind of they just kind of go into a lower energy state, and then they get back to their desk, and then reality hits, and they're like, yeah, that was a good idea, but oh my god, I'm in front of my daily task. You have to book the follow-up conversation at the event.
Absolutely. That's
what
I'm saying. Within 24 hours, you have to do that. Yeah.
No, not within 24 hours. You don't wait. It's instant. If somebody says, oh, this is great, if you have a good conversation, you can say, well, listen, there's a bunch of collateral. Feel free to use it. Is this something we could talk about and have a follow-up conversation about? Yes, I think it is. Great. Why don't I get out my calendar right now? Let's find a slot so we don't lose sight of this and commit to it here in this moment. And then it's in your freaking calendar already.
Absolutely right. And I agree 100% with you there. And there's no disagreement. What I'm saying of the within 24 hours, it is those prospects who come to those events who are there having a conversation. Of course, you're not going to walk around the table at the drinks party that you have in the evening. You're not going to walk around the table and go, can you get your calendar out now and let me know when you're available for this?
Why not?
Your follow-up is then, that following morning, that within 24 hours. I think doing it at the event is a bit of a relationship killer, but that's just my opinion.
There's a moment. Listen, if you're at drinks, you're at drinks. And they've turned into something. If there's an opportunity that surfaces when you're having drinks, hey.
Oh, for sure. Fair enough.
Forget. Let's just pop this in the calendar. Great. Yeah. If you're having drinks and you're building a network and you're adding somebody as a warm prospect, you've already got their email. Put them into your nurture campaign. Maybe you'll see them at the next event. Focus on the ones that are going to deliver. I just feel like, one, you miss. You have to capitalize on the momentum in the moment. Because it's so hard to rekindle that once the trade show's over. So anyway, maybe
okay, no, and I'm with you on that, and I'm not disagreeing with you. But what does that follow up look like? What does that follow up call look like? This is the thing. What is the plan of what happens afterwards? Because if it's just another conversation to repeat what you had a discussion at the trade show, then you're not adding necessarily any value. So what does that look like?
You've already done your pitch at the show. You've already qualified them at the show. That needs to be part of your at the show action plan. It's not just like get people excited and introduce yourself and talk about you. You need to be getting into substantial conversations at the trade show. If somebody comes in, you freaking ignore everybody else walking by, because a bird in hand is better than two in the bush. And if somebody else is really that interested, they will keep circling and whatnot, but you focus on the one that you've got, and you get into understanding and digging in and asking questions and workshopping something for 5, 10, 20 minutes at the trade show booth. And then your follow-up is actually digging into qualifying the actual opportunity. It's not another chance to introduce yourself. You're not doing
exactly
calls after you've done it at the event. That's why you paid money to go to the event. And any after event action is because it's in the top of your funnel, and you're trying to make sure that it's real and what's the size of this, and turn it into an honest opportunity that you can nurture. It's not a lead capture opportunity. From that perspective, you need to, like I said, capture their email address, thank them for the introduction, connect with them on LinkedIn, put them into your nurture campaign, and maybe they'll pop back up and raise their hand and say, we met back at that event. I'd like to know a little bit more now, and that will come later. So no, I don't think that there's a follow-up email. Thanks for meeting me. Here's some more.
No.
I just
don't. No, it has to come with action. Absolutely. Yeah, some of the things that I found to be quite effective as well is sort of, because you have those A leads that we've just talked about, where you can stand there, you can have that conversation, and you can lock them into that follow-up meeting, and they're already in that process. Mm-hmm. But there are other people who you have conversations with who you go, yeah, they're kind of interested, they're not quite, but so what I've found to be quite valuable there is that those people are often not willing to book a one-on-one meeting. Right. But they would be willing to come to a webinar where they would get more information. And so what I typically do is then within a week, 10 days of the shows, run a webinar, kind of a briefing recap about the show insights, and inviting all of those relevant leads who are sort of B leads and C leads and stuff, but also making sure that you are allowing those people the opportunity to then book a meeting to follow up, to take that next step and to progress into the A leads. Mm-hmm. But there's another thing that is often forgotten after a trade show and often causes friction within the management of an organization, is there's very rarely a management debrief. And I think that's really important, is that after you've done a trade show, is that you then arrange a 30-minute leadership review within a week of that trade show, explaining about the meetings that you've had, the number of sort of ABC contacts that you've made, any immediate opportunities, any lessons learned, and things like that, because it's still fresh if you do that within that first week. And then within the first month, you kind of have like an ROI review, where you calculate kind of that cost per qualified meeting, the pipeline created, forecasted close dates within those business opportunities, and any partner impact, of course, if you're working with partners, but also what to repeat, what to stop. And I think that is very, very often forgotten, but actually is really valuable, and also very valuable for helping to get the funding for the next year when you want to go back and do these things again.
I'm just going to clarify, sort of one, sort of not a point of disagreement, but perspective here is that depending on your industry, your service, your offering, you're not going to find ROI within a month. So that analysis probably, in my case, it happens once a year. It's like, what were the marketing activities done? Who came from this event? That, because you pop up, you meet somebody, they come back and talk to you a year later. And it takes that time for it to turn into a qualified opportunity. One of these shows I'm going to this year, I'm looking forward to continuing a conversation that started last year. And I don't, you know what I mean? Like, these are very long time frame considerations, and being able to have some of that presence helps endear them towards me, knowing that this going to make it into this year's budget or next year's budget? Oh shoot, we have to wait 3 years. That is that's the time frame for a lot of B2B businesses in particular. So I agree with what you're saying. I think every business has to be realistic, and I think that's part of the executive debrief. Is executives we went to a show, where's the sales?
Correct. Absolutely.
Deals on the trade show floor. You can talk to somebody who says they did that, good for them, but that's because they nurtured it for the past 3 years. And they're like, hey, why don't we both agree to sign the paper at the show so that we can tell how effective this was?
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's a conspiracy there. Well, that was fun. If you would like to listen to us rant and disagree and challenge each other further, please go to teaandtimbits.com. A very good place to connect with us and send us your feedback is LinkedIn. We would love to hear from you, and we look forward to our next rant on our next episode. Thanks for joining me, Andy. Always a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Scott. Have a great day.